March 2015, I left my home, my family and friends, and moved to Hungary to conduct my doctoral research. Now, some of you might be wondering, why Hungary? Well, 13 Nobel Prize holders come from Hungary. The Rubik's Cube was invented there, and vitamin C was discovered there. So basically, Hungary was a great opportunity for me to pursue my doctoral studies. My interest in endocrinology and passion towards pharmaceutical sciences have naturally led me to work in cardiovascular diseases and investigate related disorders. While our hearts are beating, there are many who have stopped because of ischemic heart disease. According to the World Health Organization, more than 17 million people die from it every year. In order to fight it, the American Heart Association recommends reducing fat intake in our diets. This disease can occur due to a process called ischemia-reperfusion injury. Ischemia is the restriction in the blood supply, causing shortage of oxygen needed for cells and tissues to stay alive. However, tissue damage occurs when blood supply returns back to the heart, to the tissue, after a period of ischemia, and this is called reperfusion. The same can happen to the heart, causing damage to the heart muscle, and this is well known as myocardial infarction. Great advances have been made for the treatment of myocardial infarction today. However, no cures have been found to reduce the size of infarction, and this is still the main cause of deaths worldwide. Some drugs were controversial in preclinical studies, while others were ineffective in clinical trials. And all what we have today is reperfusion therapy, which itself causes further death of cardiac cells. So, finding new drugs and therapies to reduce this mortality incidence and cardiac damage remains an impressive challenge for researchers. Now let me talk to you about gliptins for a second. Gliptins are a new class of oral antidiabetic drugs. It turns out that gliptins, as antidiabetic drugs, were found to have additional protection against cardiovascular complications. But whether these drugs can reduce infarction and cardiac damage, this remains to be seen. And let's not forget the impact of high-fat intake in our diets. So since the first day I joined the endocrinology lab, I embarked on a challenging research project studying the effect of sitagliptin, a family of gliptins, on myocardial infarction. And this was done comparatively on animals under the effect of two different diets, a normal diet versus a high-fat diet. After the feeding period, all animal groups were treated with different drug doses for 2 weeks. At the end of the treatment, the hearts of the animals were isolated, and an infarct was induced upon them after closing the artery that provides the main blood supply to the heart. This was done using a special device called Langendorf that keeps the heart alive under physiological conditions. At the end of the experiment, the hearts were stained so that we could measure the size of infarction. Obtained results showed that sitagliptin did reduce cardiac damage in animals on a normal diet, but to a lesser extent in animals on a high-fat diet. These results were extremely promising, and this encouraged me to stretch the study to find out the biological mechanisms that this drug could have acted upon. Another animal groups were injected with specific inhibitors to find out these biological mechanisms. It turned out that sitagliptin drug, its protective effect disappeared after inhibiting these mechanisms. So inhibiting these mechanisms rendered the drug ineffective in both groups. Our study proved that animals on a high-fat diet did not benefit from the positive effect of sitagliptin drug that was seen in normal diet animals. This is Albert György, the Hungarian biochemist, the Nobel Prize winner for his discovery of vitamin C, and the person who belonged to the same university and department that I proudly received my PhD from. Once he said that research is to see what everybody else has seen. and to think what nobody else has thought. We all see the problems surrounding us, and what we need is funding and support from public and private sectors to come out with new ways to solve them. Basic research is essential, and that's how societies develop and prosper. Thank you.